or college, I matriculated to UC Santa Barbara in Santa Barbara, California. Go Gauchos. And as my chief focus of study, I was a film major, which meant that I was studying not just film technique and how to hold a camera and shoot an inanimate object or even a moving object, but film theory and film history. That's what the UCSB film degree was really focused on, was understanding film and studying it like you might study English literature. And one of the aspects of film history that I really, really love is the history and the evolution of the film poster and the way films are marketed. In fact, I wrote my senior thesis on marketing films using action figures. Big shocker there, right? I was really into the promotional concept and the way film promotions have evolved over the years, and the fact that films are so much more than just cameras and lighting and film, but there is a marketing campaign that is a big part of the film experience. The very first film marketing campaign was a Lumiere film that was shown in a French cafe on December 26, 1895. And all film posters pretty much started with this. Obviously, they have evolved a lot over the years, and the standardization of size and format has really been one of the more interesting aspects of the evolution of the film poster. All right, so with all of that as kind of a quick introduction, this channel is mostly about Star Wars and other pop culture related toys, and the reason is because I want to talk specifically about Star Wars posters and promotional materials used for the original film. Now, this is the very first Star Wars poster ever created. It was handed out at San Diego Comic-Con 2 years before the film, and most people probably threw it in the trash. Those who kept it now have something worth a lot of money. Look at that logo. That is an old Star Wars logo that's not used anymore. And then, of course, there were teaser posters that were created telling the world that they were about to enjoy a brand new experience, unlike anything they had ever seen before, and people probably said, I've seen Planet of the Apes, I've seen Barbarella. And of course, most of us are familiar with the two iconic posters from the '77 film that had artwork and film logos. There were a few others, and people out there collect Star Wars posters just as much as they collect Star Wars action figures. It's become a big part of the hobby, and for those who are into film lore, there is really almost no limit to the number of posters, especially when you start looking at the international market and how many different versions there were. One of my personal favorites is this one because it actually used Star Wars action figures on the poster, given to theaters that were still showing the film 1 year after release, celebrating the fact that they'd been showing it for a solid 365 days. Hey, what better way to celebrate than with cake and action figures? But one of the more interesting aspects of the Star Wars film posters from '77 were these. These are called lobby cards. And as you probably guessed, lobby cards are cards that are displayed in movie theater lobbies. Yes, you know when we used to go to movie theaters, we didn't just watch movies at home on our screen and streaming. It was actually a occasion to take the family out. You might even get dressed up, and you'll buy popcorn and go to the stadium seating. And well, one of the way films were advertised is as you would leave the theater, you would see lobby cards for upcoming films. These were usually 8 by 11, or they could even be 11 by 14, 8 by 10. There wasn't always a standard for how big they were, but they were much smaller than movie posters, and they were basically just a quick glimpse of a film as you were walking from theater to exit or popcorn stand to bathroom, and you could get a hint at what might be coming to theaters. And usually, because of the lobby card format, there were multiple cards for each film, so you could get lots of different images, not just one, like with a movie poster. And that's exactly what the 1977 Star Wars lobby cards were. You had multiple still images of the film that honestly today are collected by Star Wars fans just as much as almost any other Star Wars collectible. And they're a really neat part of Star Wars history for several reasons. So the cards are just as you would expect. They are cards. They are 11 by 14, and there are international versions of them, not just English, but they're all still images. And while most of the images are taken directly from the film, There are a few in particular that differ from really what shows up in the final cut. And some of these images are what make the lobby cards really unique. This one in particular of Han Solo aiming his blaster directly at the camera is something that Disney will never use again. They have a policy of not using any shots from Star Wars where a gun barrel is facing the camera. So enjoy this image. You'll never see it again except on Google. And while some of them were done in black and white, the majority of the lobby cards were in color. And it was a way to introduce the audience to the new heroes, the new villains, and really the fact that this was a whole new world that they were about to enter. Now, what's quite interesting is while some of the more alien characters like the Bantha and Tusken Raider were shown, there's no lobby cards of things like the Cantina. That was kept essentially securely locked down as a surprise and delight feature for audience members, sort of like the Ewoks in Return of the Jedi, how they weren't part of any of the pre-movie marketing material. You got to meet Jawas, and you got to see desert planets, and you got to see beat-up space vehicles and droids and princesses that had Danishes attached to their heads and space jockeys, things that would get you interested in seeing the movie, stormtroopers running down hexagonal shapes and farmers kneeling over trash cans and some guy in a giant black samurai outfit who somehow hung out with other guys in white skeleton outfits, guys who lost their arm and looked like Oscars. Now this one, here's where we get interesting. This shot is not in the movie. Luke does wear his poncho, but he never wears it while looking for Obi-Wan in the Jutland Wastes. So this is one of two shots in the lobby cards that are not in the film. Luke does wear his poncho in the film, particularly Docking Bay 94, and a clever brand manager made a Docking Bay 94 Luke in the Big Figs line. And Hasbro did a Luke Skywalker Tatooine that included this, but they didn't call it Docking Bay 94 Luke, unlike that clever brand manager over Big Figs who did that. So yes, he does wear the poncho, but not in that scene. All right, but now the gem of them all, this one. So this is my absolute favorite Star Wars lobby card. In fact, I have this on the wall in my office. You can get these off eBay. They're not that expensive. And there's repros. So why is this one so interesting? Well, it shows a Dewback, which most of us are familiar with Dewbacks, mostly from things like the Special Edition, where they walked around in CGI glory, and they did show up in other Star Wars movies and other media. Phantom Menace has them, and there's been a plethora of Dewback toys over the years, and they have definitely differed in their source material. And that's because between the CGI model that was used in the Special Edition and this model that was an actual physical model created for A New Hope, there's definitely some biological differences. The actual model used in A New Hope wound up in a prop yard in England as part of Lucasfilm's library there. And we only see it briefly in the 1977 cut, right before they say, "Luxor, droids," and then Obi-Wan and Luke walking around Mos Eisley, you see one in the background. So for a character that had two tiny little background shots and is barely visible on screen, it's often wondered, why did we get a patrol Dewback in the launch line in 1977? I mean, it didn't even wait for like a refresh. This was one of the very first Star Wars toys Kenner ever made. And it probably, is the record for least amount of screen time for such an early toy. So it even had a prototype made, which meant they were working on it really early and had to change it to look more like the movie version. Well, all of this is answered because of this, because of the lobby card. Out of the 12 lobby cards that were distributed to most theaters, there were more, there were actually 18 in total, but most got the standard 12. Well, that one prominently featured a still image of the Dewback. I don't want to call it a puppet, but the actual prop. Prop is probably the best word. And one of the things I love about the Black Series Dewback is that it's an exact replica of this prop, and it actually looks a lot like the movie card. In fact, you can create the movie lobby card shot with the Black Series Dewback 6-inch scale. And what's even cooler, for those of you who are fans of Mandalorian, this is the way, and you remember the Season 1 episode, Gunslinger, where he's on Tatooine, and he grabs a Dewback to help him take down his bounty. Well, in the episode, they recreate the lobby card with Jango Fett, with the Mandalorian on the Dewback instead of the Stormtrooper. It's the exact same shot. And I mentioned this to a few Star Wars friends of mine, like, wow, did you see that shot, Mandalorian, that replicates the lobby card? And they looked at me like, what are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about. So that's why I thought I'd make a video about it. So yeah, we really have that lobby card, the Dewback lobby card, to thank for why we have so many Dewbacks in pop culture. I mean, obviously the special edition brought them back, but if it wasn't for that lobby card, we might not have had the Kenner figure. And if we didn't have the Kenner figure, would we have gotten more Dewback figures, and would it have even put in the special edition? Maybe yes, but it definitely all goes back to that. So if you like Dewbacks, you should definitely be a fan of the lobby cards, because we have them to thank for this amazing, iconic image that will forever be part of Star Wars history, and let us all know what a Dewback is, since you really didn't see them in the film. The lobby card was where you saw them. I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know if you have any comments or questions. I always answer back. And share this video with others. It helps tell YouTube to share it, which is much appreciated. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.